as a guest, I have with me Stefan Vera. He's one of the most in-demand body language experts in Europe, and he talks on stage, and he brings his program with humor and with great scientific insights, and inspired more than 50,000 participants in 13 countries over 4 continents. Is that correct, Stefan?
That's correct. Every year it's 50,000 people on stage and in seminars and in coachings.
That is amazing. First of all, thank you very much for willing to participate today
in
the Stress Awareness Day. So tell me something more about yourself, because people, you're very famous, especially in Germany and things like that, for what you do. But tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I'm Austrian, originally Austrian, and okay. I have moved to Germany 6 years ago, which doesn't make a big difference because we all speak the same language. And from there on, I do my travels around the world, to China, to the US, to Asia, to Africa, to talk about body language, because there are so many misconceptions and also a little bit of bullshit about body language is on the air. And I want to get people to know that body language isn't about lie detecting. Body language isn't about mentalism, because body language is the oldest way of communicating. With body language, we communicate our inner state, and we can read the inner state of people around us. But what we can't do is read things that don't come from the same areas in our brain that our words are coming from. And that is why real thoughts we never ever can read via body language.
So in front of you, it might be a classical. I have to sit a bit straighter and say, because you're also, I have to be proud. Although I'm, a little bit nervous for these interviews and things like that, I still have to, and in front of a body language. And then, are you reading me? Hope not. Anyway, so when you travel a lot and when you're a lot of stages and things like that, has stress ever had an impact on your life? And if it did, how did you overcome it?
Okay. First answer, of course, stress is a big factor in my life. Being on stage talking to 1,000 people, or being in a seminar room talking to 4 people, or talking to world-class actors and coaching them is some sort of stress. And I tell you one thing, I was on tour, a big tour, and the last show was in Austria. And the venue was sold out. And the whole tour was really a big success. And on the last day, I was so cool, and I was not nervous and not stressed in any way. And you know what? The show was very mediocre. And from that on, I realized how important it is that man can feel stress, that I can feel that it is not an ordinary talk that I'm doing to these people. It's more. Stress means that your level of energy goes up. Stress means you are much more aware of what's happening around you. Although if it's too much stress, you only see a little bit of your surroundings. I think everyone knows
when
that
it becomes chronic.
Stress is so important. So what I did from that moment on, when you are so frequently on stage, like I am 150, 170 times a year, you kind of lose that feeling of, it's new and it's I don't get nervous anymore. What I do is I start to hyperventilate. There's
so you start to stress yourself.
From backstage, just before I enter the stage, and I remember where it was. It was somewhere in France, and I wasn't nervous in any way. And I start to get into the state where I I know from that state, I can pull the people and draw them into my performance and draw them into the thing of body language, because I only have 90 minutes. And after those 90 minutes, my goal is that they are a little bit more aware of the body language of their children, of their partners, of their colleagues in the company. And you can't go on stage with a body language like that and start talking, and after 10 minutes they realize, that might be interesting. No, people decide in a few moments if you're interesting or not. And you have to have some sort of stress within you. So yes, stress is a constant companion on my tours. And there's a second level of stress, that is, I'm traveling a lot, sometimes I have 3 speeches on one day, in the morning in Berlin, in the afternoon in Stuttgart, and then the evening in Vienna. That was some weeks ago. So the stress is getting the flights, getting a taxi, and things like that. And you know what? I love that, because I was made for that, and being very active. And what I learned, and that might be a help for others, don't be afraid of stress. Because if you're afraid of, that might be hectic, it starts frightening you. And that is another form of stress. Some people call it distress. That's really dangerous. So if you're in a distress, if you're doing things that you don't like, that's getting really harmful, because you cramp up, you're tightening up, you get that tunnel view, and from that moment on, your body language is really very unattractive, and you are not in a state where the energy level goes up. No, that state sucks more energy than you can bring on the table.
Yes. So I find it really interesting. Most people talk about lowering stress, and here you're talking about the need for stress in certain conditions. And I have an experience in a way similar to that when I was 18 years old, and I was cycling to the place to get my driving license. And I was I was cycling along to this place, and driving license is a big thing, and you have to do the practical test. And I said, I'm not stressed at all. I'm not stressed at all. And it was like, why am I not stressed about this? And I felt so inconfident. And it's also I also cycled a little bit faster to feel a little bit that exhilaration, to go on to my driving license. So I understand completely where you're getting at. But that also means from your story that you really are, as you said, also, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're made for this. And this is so important also in stress management. If you're doing something that comes from your heart, where you were principally where you were born, what you were born to be, of course, the stresses that you will get, you'll probably be coping with it much better than somebody who is doing the same thing and who is not born for it. Typical example is also with professors or something like that who must teach. They're great in research, but when they have to teach, they're really stressed out, and they muddle their words and things like that. So yeah, very important also in stress management. What I hear is do what you are born to be.
One thought about that, you have to do, I'm completely with you, you have to do what you are made for. Yeah. And there's one benchmark for me. If the things you are doing throughout a day cost you more energy than they give you back, then you are in the wrong surroundings. For example, if you're in charge, if you are a manager in a company, but you're constantly afraid of talking in front of people, then it might be the wrong stage for you. It's the same with your relationship. If your relationship is more work and costs you more energy than you get out of it, it might be the wrong surroundings. So get to know yourself, And one thing about what you're made for. there's a thing about eating. People say take time for eating and people have to eat slowly. That might be right for a lot of people, but in evolution, mankind was never made for lighting some candles in the Neanderthal, cutting a little bit out of the saber-toothed tiger, tasting it. No, when there was something to eat, we had to hurry up because other creatures wanted to also to have those things. The thing is, you have to have those waves where you are in a state of high level, and then you have your areas or your times when you really can calm down. I think the variety in your routines throughout a year is so important. Yes. So don't be stressed because other people say you have to eat slowly. If it doesn't harm you, it's absolutely fine. If it does harm you, then you should eat more in a more convenient way for you.
Comes again to the system of, from the ages, know thyself. Yes. And it's so important that we're starting to look again inward from who are we? What, how do I function? And it's actually, in many ways, what we're talking about is the topic of the book that will be released later this year or early next year from myself, Futurizing Yourself. But it's, that topic is so important. I'm really glad that you brought it up. So, have you had yourself some moments of stress that you say from, this is the way I overcame it? Or you say from, this is what I do. I basically have built a life around my purpose, and that is really the best stress management that I could offer myself by knowing me.
I have a thought that has helped me so much in my life. I don't have an ordinary office job. Almost everything I say has an impact, because if I'm doing an interview, they are writing it down in a newspaper or TV. Yes. And you can't redo it, or if you're talking in front of people, you can't redo it. So what helped me a lot is, one thought is always after that interview, coaching, performance, life goes on like before. So, if I'm doing a coaching for a very famous person and I'm a little bit nervous because I know what this person will be doing afterwards will have a great impact. And I think I will do my best. And if I'm making a mistake, I will go for a great glass of wine anyway. And if I'm doing a wonderful and great job, I will only drink a great glass of wine. I won't do a party. I won't, get some lines of cocaine to get those feelings. No, you have to lower your volatility, If you are successful, you're completely freaking out. And if you're sad, you're completely crying, you're starting to cry. No, if you're doing something well, oh, that was great. If you're doing something not so well, oh, that was not so great,
And just do better next time. Yeah.
I do it the next time. My routine will go on like that. Okay. So one moment might be so big for your life, but the people out on the street who are waiting for the bus or the train to come, that moment is not so important. Okay. So maybe you're not so important, and the whole world helps you that you're not so stressed,
That's a great way of looking at things. So much. That's a great way of looking at it. So as an expert in body language, can you tell us something more about how we can tell that somebody else is stressed? Because I find that so important, that many times, people around us, are stressed and they influence the atmosphere at work or something like that. So, but not many people talk about it. Yeah. But how can we observe in other people in a way? Because if we can observe it, we can also maybe start to help them becoming aware of it. So how would you say that you can tell that somebody is stressed?
That's very easy. You only have to know, where does stress come from? And it came from getting ready to take action. So if the saber-toothed tiger was approaching you, you had adrenaline, and you know that much better than me,
Yes.
Cortisol, and the muscles tightened up. You were ready to get in action. Nowadays, we don't get in action anymore, at least physically. But the reactions within our body stay the same. So the movements start to be in a very small level. Like when you see my hands, people will start doing like that. People will start doing like that. People will start small movements within your body language, or people will talk like that. When you see me talking, I move a lot. When I'm talking, I do a lot of gestures. I do a lot of with my eyebrows. I move a lot. That is not the stress. The stress would be if I would never be calm. But when you are talking and I'm listening to you, I'm completely calm. So the difference between high level of body language and a lot of moves and stress is that when you are stressed, you can't stop. Even when you are listening, even when you don't do anything, you have to move around. So if you want to see if your children, if your colleague or your partner or yourself, if you are stressed, watch for the small little movements. They are a signal that a saber-toothed tiger is
approaching. Yeah. I also want to add a tip on there, because I learned that some people, when they're in a stress mode, sometimes they don't really realize it themselves. Yes. So in my presentations, I sometimes say look, when you have at work, you have your best friends or the people that you get along with, and maybe you should make arrangements between you. Say if you see me stressed and I'm not aware of it, then I want you to do a sign or tell me this word to make me aware of it. So that when for example, I would work in an office and I've given the authority to a friend, say if I'm stressed, you just do, Tom, I think it's a timeout, that it's not the person telling me, but me telling myself through that person. So I've given the authority, because otherwise when somebody says hey, it seems that you're stressed, can also be like the drop of oil on the fire. So I started to introduce that also to get communication going and help each other by giving a sort of authority to other people, that when I'm stressed, show me. And most of the time I say use this kind of, we all know that, isn't it? Time out. Or another word that some other person might say just say this word to me, because some people are more symbolic, other people are more verbal. Yeah. I think it's also very important in couples. It's the same thing. It's like couples, talk to each other and say if you see me stressed and you see me that I'm going beyond that level of where I'm not really rational, show me this sign, and then I'm realizing I probably connect with myself to say okay, yes, I'm over my limit.
Wow, what a great idea. If you see it from an evolutionary perspective, that I'm sure that happened in a Neanderthal, when 4 hunters were lying and one was getting nervous, I'm sure one said to him, not because he was realizing he was stressed, just because he was making too much noise, and the saber-toothed tiger was hearing that. So what you're doing right now makes absolutely sense, that you have some benchmarks around you, some human benchmarks that are telling you like that. And I want to add one thing, and that is, if you have a colleague in your company that you're really that is trustworthy, ask him or her that he or she takes a video of you when you are performing, because we almost never realize how our body language truly is. We only assume, for example, that we are so nervous. a lot of times you don't come across in a very nervous way, only it's within your brain, or you see yourself so nervously. And it's also like sometimes you think you're so friendly, although you're standing like that on stage, and it helps so much if you see yourself on video and realize, oh, maybe it would help to smile a little more. That comes across in a more friendly way. And people in your audience, maybe your colleagues of your team, are smiling also more. So you are getting a more secure feeling because they are smiling at you. And so you are smiling more. The other way around, if you're talking like that to your colleagues, they think, oh, something must be wrong. And they start sitting like that. So it's always a play, action, reaction. So if you have a video and realize, oh, I'm looking really grumpy when I'm talking to my colleagues, it might help that you just remember to smile.
I think it's a great idea.
Every meeting.
It's a great idea, and indeed, do it with a trustworthy person, because don't put it on Facebook, or any social media, because I can see already that is going to be, that can cause some stress after that.
Great.
Anyway, I've got one more question for you, Stefan. Already so interesting, but like today's topic on International Stress Awareness Day is speak up and speak out about stress. Is there like one phrase that you still want to share with the public and with the audience, that we, about this day, and that you like to share, because it's so important to speak up and speak out about stress?
At least once a day, step out of the game. Switch off your smartphone, switch off your computer, switch off all your television and radio stations, and move. The most effective way of reducing stress is by movement. Go for a walk, go for a slow run. Maybe some of you need to go to the gym. Our body was made for moving. It doesn't reduce stress so much when we are lying around on our couch. So we should really come to terms how and why was our body made like it is right now. Nowadays, apparently we don't need our feet too much nowadays, because we can go by car, we can go by railway, we can go by our bicycles, but hundreds of thousands of years our feet were the only way to move. So our mind and our hormones work in a way the best when we start moving again. So my advice is, at least once a day, step out of the game and start moving in your tempo and in your range, what is optimal for you.
Sounds like a great tip to me anyway. Yes. Moving and using your feet, using your hands, doing something creative, and switch it off. Put your phone and your computer on airport mode, which is, for a few minutes or 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it's a real, you don't lose time. And as you said before, life will go on.
Yes.
Even if you switch it off, life will still go on. Okay, Stefan, really, I thought it was a great contribution from yourself. And I really thank you for willing to participate in International Stress Awareness Day. Wish you a lot of success still on the stage, and inspiring so many people with your story. Thank you. And hope to catch with you someday soon. Okay. Thank you.
Tom.
Bye, Stefan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.